You ever get accused of destroying property values before you've even had your morning coffee? Because that's how my Tuesday started. Me, a 52-year-old retired electrician just trying to drink my Folgers in peace. And Brenda Kessler, HOA president, screaming, "Sir, you're under citizen's arrest," right in my face, while she shoves her iPhone at me and blocks my own front door. Not exactly the retirement I imagined. Smelled like a mix of high-end perfume and cold pine needles out there with two sheriff's deputies looking like they'd rather be anywhere else, boots crunching in the snow behind her. She was live streaming too, thought she'd gone and caught a criminal red-handed. Only problem was I was standing on federal forest land that I lease fair and square for $127 a year. That's right, every board, every nail, every speck of mortar fully permitted, federally approved. Now what happened next? Let's just say Brenda's live stream got a lot more attention than she bargained for, but not for the reason she'd hoped. By the way, if you've ever seen someone try to arrest their neighbor on federal land, you gotta drop your location below. I'm Garrett Walsh. And if you'd told me 2 years ago I'd end up in a knockdown, drag-out legal brawl with my HOA over a cabin on leased forest land, I'd have told you to check your meds. Back then, I was just another union guy with calloused hands and a pension, 32 years running high-voltage lines, always coming home to Linda. Lost her a year and a half ago to cancer, the kind that doesn't stick around to say goodbye. 1 minute we're planning our retirement, picking out porch chairs. Next thing I know, the whole house smells like lavender soap and loss, and I'm wandering around wondering what the hell to do with myself. That cabin. It wasn't just a pile of lumber. It was our last project. Linda spotted the spot one Sunday, 40 acres right up against endless forest, where she'd tease me about pretending to fish and sip coffee at sunrise. I bought the lot with my disability settlement after a bad fall on the job. Spine never forgave me. Place was all pine trees and rocky slopes, quiet enough to hear your own heartbeat. Of course, the 1970 survey messed up my property line. Turns out part of my lot bleeds into national forest. But the Forest Service, they let you lease for special use $127 a year, less than I spend on boots. Building that cabin, man, that's what kept me sane. Chopping logs, filling the sawdust, cake my arms hammer echoing off the peaks, coffee steaming in the frosty air, every inch I built for Linda, even if she'd never see it finished. Passed every county inspection. Hell, the inspector asked if I was for hire. But then Brenda strutted in stilettos, sinking in the mud, clipboard flashing like a badge. 3-term HOA president, married to a city councilman, living in a mansion with a lawn so green it looked radioactive. She had that look like the help just tracked mud through her foyer. "This structure doesn't match our guidelines," she snapped, waving my permits away like they were shopping receipts. "You'll replace that metal roof, lose the chimney, or get fined." Didn't matter that I had every dock in the book, federal, county, state. The message was clear. People like me don't belong in developments like hers. Within a week, there's a violation notice taped to my door, $50 a day until I comply. $50 a day. That's groceries, medication, lights. She wanted me out plain and simple. But I've worked under plenty of petty tyrant supervisors who think yelling makes them in charge. But this was different. This was Linda's dream under attack, and Brenda had no idea who she'd just picked a fight with. Fast forward 3 weeks. I get a letter, emergency HOA board meeting. No time for folks to arrange childcare, which was exactly the point. I show up to the community center, and it smells like every town building carpet, shampoo, old grudges. Brenda's got a PowerPoint, yes, a PowerPoint for an HOA meeting, blasting my illegal structure with the worst pictures she could find, making my cabin look like a horror movie prop. Neighbors were mumbling. My friend Sal, Vietnam vet, stands up. "Brenda, I live 2 lots over. Never complained, helped him unload lumber." "Who complained?" Brenda's smile, you could skate on it. Anonymous complaints to avoid retaliation. Retaliation from me, a guy who hands out coffee like Halloween candy. The board's unanimous recommendation: demolish the cabin in 30 days or get fined $500 a day. So I stood up with my manila folder, spread out my federal permit and property survey. Brenda, here's the United States Forest Service Supremacy Clause. McCulloch vs. Maryland, if you want to Google it. Suddenly, the HVAC's wheezing was the loudest thing in the room. And for good measure, I pointed out that the very community center we were sitting in violated the county's setback requirements by 8 feet. The temperature dropped 10 degrees. Meeting fell apart faster than a deck of cards in a hurricane. Brenda tried to push the fines through anyway, but too many folks had questions. And as people left, I saw it in their eyes, maybe not on my side, but not automatically against me either. Brenda's glare told me this war wasn't over. She took it to the county, dangerous rogue electrician, illegal fortress, the whole bit. Next thing I know, Jake Morrison, building inspector, rolls up. Real guy. Rough hands, knows construction. He's forced to check a complaint, my septic, my permits. He laughs. Your work's better than half the pros I see. While he crawls under my foundation, I'm off to the county clerk digging into Brenda's real estate deals. Jackpot, she'd sold 4 properties to board members, never disclosed boundary disputes. That's illegal. After Jake's inspection clears me again, I file a complaint with the state. And then comes the kicker voicemail from David Kessler, attorney for the HOA, Brenda's relative, no doubt. They want compliance. But I found something better. David himself was the closing attorney on those sketchy property sales. I brought it up, and he blanched like someone just flipped the main breaker in his brain. Drop your lawsuit, and maybe I don't take this to the bar. You'd think that'd be it? Nope. I come home one afternoon, and my main power line is cut clean like with bolt cutters. Call the sheriff. Rodriguez, sharp, young guy. He confirms it's deliberate. Sal, my neighbor, comes over with a beer. Saw a white Lexus with government plates cruising by. Brenda's husband drives one. Sal and his VFW buddies set up a neighborhood watch. I install trail cams. 2 nights later, there's Brenda herself in the woods at 2 a.m. with bolt cutters caught in glorious infrared. But the more I watched Brenda unravel, the more I realized this wasn't just some HOA vendetta. I dug into county records and found the original sin in 1965. The feds seized 40,000 acres from her family for a highway that was never built. Her father lost everything fighting it. She was 16, watched it all happen. Now every time she sees my cabin, she sees the government that ruined her family. Suddenly I understood this war was personal. So I called David Kim, civil rights lawyer, and brought in Patricia from the Forest Service. They dug up proof the condemnation was dirty. The feds ignored their own experts. Jake, my inspector friend, found out Brenda's husband had his own development projects that needed federal permits. The irony, right? The old journalist in town, Sarah, agreed to resurrect the story for the newspaper. Sal rallied local vets. Now we had a coalition. Brenda doubled down, hired a PI to dig dirt on me, came up empty. Then her husband started threatening county employees. Jake reported him to the ethics board. Brenda even got a congressman's office to try to investigate my permit, but Patricia just let the request disappear into the bureaucratic swamp. But Brenda's dirtiest move. She called in a false mental health report, said, "I was unstable since my wife died." Deputies showed up for a welfare check. I made them coffee, told them the whole story. They left shaking their heads. That crossed a line. Brenda went full meltdown, called an emergency HOA meeting, tried to slap a $2,500 special assessment on every homeowner to fund more lawsuits. Only this time, neighbors had had enough. Janet Morrison, retired teacher, stood up and exposed $47,000 in consulting fees paid to board members' companies. Tom Kessler, Brenda's own husband, publicly admitted he was under investigation by the county ethics board and the state AG. The no-confidence vote passed. I walked out under the stars. Mrs. Patterson squeezing my arm. Your wife would be proud. Some fights are worth it. Brenda made one last play, a community forum, local officials, media, even a congressman's rep in attendance. She gave the speech of her life, 40 years of pain poured into blaming federal authority. Then she crossed the line, accusing me of exploiting my wife's death. The crowd went silent. I stood up, handed over Patricia's declassified documents, proved the condemnation was a political scam, not public need. Patricia explained the feds themselves had wanted to return the land, but corrupt officials blocked it. David Kim proposed a joint petition to Congress, get Brenda's father vindicated, maybe restitution. For the first time, Brenda sat down. The room erupted not because anyone won, but because justice finally had a shot. 6 months later, Brenda's family got a federal apology restitution, and her dad's name cleared. Congress passed a new act to review historical land seizures. The HOA turned over new leadership. We started a scholarship fund for local kids affected by eminent domain. Property values went up. My cabin turned into a place for grief support and vet meetings. Brenda and I aren't friends, but we share coffee. Sometimes she apologized. I apologized. Funny thing, sometimes the real win isn't about beating your enemy. It's about helping them put their ghost to rest. That's the story. Now it's your turn. Drop your wildest HOA horror story in the comments. Ever been railroaded by power-hungry neighbors or seen someone's grief twisted into something ugly? Let's hear it, because these stories deserve sunlight. And hey, smash that subscribe if you want more Karen drama, because next month I'll tell you what happened when my new neighbor tried building a helicopter pad without a permit. Spoiler, the FAA does not care about your political connections. Thanks for riding along sometimes. Victory isn't just about justice, it's about helping the whole community heal.